Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central. CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And we got another signing here as Zach Zebrowski has signed with the Edmonton Elks. And so this is a bit of an interesting one, as this was one of many signings that the Elks did. We're going to be covering kind of two key ones here. This is one of them. So Zebrowski joined the Elks in September. This is just from their 3 Down article, and spent the rest of the season on the practice roster. He's 6'2", 208 pounds passer, and he is a 2-time winner of the Harlan Hill Trophy of the NCAA Division II equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. So this guy was in Div 2, but realistically he should have been in Div 1. You know what I mean? How much success he would have had in Div 1, who knows? But he won the Div 2 version of the Heisman Trophy. So it's enough to kind of be notable. You know what I mean? Keep in mind that previous winners of that award, the Div 2 Heisman Trophy, essentially the Harlan Hill Trophy, would include quarterback for the Chicago Bears, Tyson Bagent, and former NFL running backs Danny Woodhead and Juique Bell. I probably butchered that last name.
Never heard of any of those people.
So he had went to school at Central Missouri, not Michigan. And I told Rick not to take a look at his college stats because I wanted to read them out, okay? Mm-hmm. So his rushing stats is one thing. His passing stats, though, that's where this gets interesting. So his rushing stats in 2023, he had 533 rushing yards on 101 attempts in 13 games for 2 touchdowns. In 2024, in 12 games played, 132 attempts for 599 rushing yards. So almost 600 rushing yards in 12 games for 10 touchdowns. In 2023, Rick, in 13 games, he completed 417 he had 417 completions, 5,157 passing yards for 61 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Yeah, but that's D2 though.
I know, but still, to be fair, I'm just saying that's a crazy stat. I'm not saying that means he comes into the CFL and his shit don't stink, and that we should all bow down. I'm not. I'm saying
it's not even that. Like,
I'm saying it is an impressive stat that shows that he should have been playing Div 1. You know what I mean?
If he was making that much noise, and scouts thought that he was the next up-and-coming quarterback, I'm sure NFL teams would have drafted him by now.
Potentially. But sometimes NFL teams pick guys and they don't work out. Sometimes NFL teams miss guys and they work out afterwards, and then the NFL realizes, shit, we probably should have had this guy, and then they bring him in afterwards. I'm not saying that either of those have necessarily happened with this guy. I'm just looking at it at face value in the sense of, Rick, if I was playing Div 2 college football as a quarterback, I could not do anything close to that. You know what I mean? And in 2024, 40 touchdowns for 12 interceptions. So it still did very well that year, 47-27 for passing yards that year. His completion percentage was 69% in his first year and 67% in his second year. So pretty what you're looking for there. And so he had a lot of success in Div 2 college football for Central Missouri. So I think the big question is, does this translate into Canadian football? So you have to imagine the Elks see something in him. Because not only did they sign him to this deal, this is after they had him on the practice roster since September. So it's one of those things, September, they bring him onto the practice roster, and they keep him around here. I'm curious if they believe that kind of moving forward, they ever can see any potential move onto the, like, it's one, you know what the big question is, Rick?
What's that?
When Trey Ford's contract inevitably comes to an end at the end of next year, it's looking like Edmonton will move on from Trey Ford.
Depends they take a look at what happens between now and February?
That's true. But I'm saying I'm curious to see who ends up at that backup quarterback position. We know that Cody Fajardo, though he is re-signed with Edmonton, is realistically not going to be there extremely long in terms of in the next 3 years. He will probably be out of this league, considering he was even considering retirement this year, but then decided to stick around. I'm curious to see if this guy, not that this guy becomes necessarily a starting quarterback in this league, but I'm curious to see if they give him a look, if they give this guy some chances, give him some time and see if it goes anywhere. He had done very, very well, again, in his time in college. I'm curious to see, again, because he's in the practice roster, I think realistically, if we're going to see any time for this guy this year, it's probably going to be in the preseason. That's usually where practice roster guys really get a chance to show what they're made of. So I'm curious to see if this is a guy that really showcases some serious potential, and can really become something in the Canadian Football League, because we are talking about a fast-paced professional league. It's different than college, you know what I mean? But a good showing is a good showing nonetheless. So I'm curious to see if that translates well into that environment. And again, he's 6'2", so he's got some height, 208 pounds, so pretty light for his height considering. He's only 24 years old. He's really young, from Decatur, Illinois. And so I'm curious to see what kind of transition this guy makes into the Canadian game. Like, how well does he work with that waggle? How well are those passes down the field? How well does he work with that wide field? I'm curious to see, look like his rushing game was pretty decent when he was there. In the preseason, do we see any of that? You know what I mean? I'm curious to see exactly what we can get out of this guy. So kind of the purpose of this video, despite kind of making you aware of a guy like this, is for these types of signings, of guys that have not played in the CFL previously. It's not because we're going to know everything about him. It's because when preseason comes around, look for these names. You know what I mean? See if you can see anything in him, and potentially you may see him come the regular season. We'll have to see. That's sometimes how it works out. That's sometimes how guys will make a name for themselves and get into this league. They play well in the preseason, earn some time in the regular season. Matthew Peterson with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, great example, backing for Brady Oliveira. And sometimes that's how you get in. So come preseason, this would be a name to look around for. Is there anything else you got there, though, Rick, for this?
What I was going to say was, don't forget they also have Cole Schneider as third-string quarterback. So
that's good to know. I had forgotten about that.
I mean, even if, Cole Schneider doesn't prove anything, you'll also have him as a third string.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think that's pretty much all I got. Is there anything else you have past that, or?
Not really.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video, share it around, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you haven't, make sure you guys join our Discord. Link in the description below to our Discord, where we discuss all things CFL, NHL, all sorts of sports stuff. So make sure you guys go there and keep the conversation going. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Peace, love, and positivity to all you wonderful people at home. We will see you guys next time.